Hi, everyone. Tom Tylutki here from AMTS. This is another video. Um, two videos describing a couple new features in this patch of nutrition to 1.15, 1.1.5. Sorry about that. And this one is the official release of the Advanced Optimizer. And there's some really cool things to talk about with the Advanced Optimizer. If you want to try it, let us know. If you currently have that as part of your subscription, you will see something appear on your screen when we go to the recipe screen. So again, this is version 1.1.5. So we'll go to a recipe, and just for giggles, I'm not going to unmix things. We'll just keep it like it is. And you will see a button up here now next to the Optimize button. You'll see Advanced Optimizer. Now, the first time that you run the program after installing this patch, and you click on the Advanced Optimizer, you will get a message saying additional files need to be downloaded. This is a one-time deal where there's a lot of additional runtime stuff that we have to do. So click on that. Make sure you're connected. Let it download and install. It'll take a couple minutes because there's quite a few files. But again, one time that you only have to do this. Before we go into it, I've already done that, so I have it. And before we go into it, I want to talk about a couple other things about how I'm using this optimizer. I've been testing it for a few months and learned some things about it. First, if we want to, again, we're going to set all of our constraints, feed constraints, and nutrient constraints here on the recipe screen. So to get to our feed constraints, we go into display options and OptFC, so optimizer feed constraints, either on a dry matter or as fed basis. You can show both. It just takes up more screen real estate. I only work in dry matter, so I'll show those. Turn snapshots off too, so that we have some room. And we're going to put in some realistic constraints here. So I can only do 0 to 10 kilos of dry matter of the corn silage, 0 to 4 kilos of that cover crop. The sow hay silage is not available, so I have it ticked off. That's what this tick boxes are for. If they're ticked off, the optimizer ignores them. Same with this purchased hay silage. That no longer exists, so I can actually just get rid of it out of the farm, out of the recipe. I have this protein mix, and we'll actually let it go to 7.5 kilos. The minerals, this is the mineral premix. I'm going to force it in between 100 and 200 grams. And then ground corn can go in up to 10 kilos. We'll let it go. And not using that as well. So dry matter intake constraints, okay, really important. That we have dry matter intake constraints because the optimizer is actually going to use the average of the min-max constraints that we have here. We can change that, as you'll see, to whatever intake number we want. Also notice, before we go into this, I'm showing safe min, value, max, and safe max. I've been playing around with this, just trying some various things. It's going to try and meet everything within min max, okay? And then the safe min, safe max is really more for some of the color coding, I believe. If you want to see the safe min, safe max columns, you just come into manage outputs. And there you go, show safe max, show safe min max values. Okay, so we're going to leave those turned on for now. Now there's a couple new outputs that we did in a previous patch that I have become enamored with, really, when it comes to optimizing. Instead of trying to optimize off of both ME and MP allowable milk, And again, remember with the nonlinear optimizer, we can do it directly off of milk or allowable production. Doesn't matter. It could be gain or milk. You don't have to do it off a percent of required. And my philosophy is I always want my MP milk to be equal to or greater than my ME allowable milk. So we added this new constraint, this new recipe output called MP to ME milk. If we were working with a growing animal, it would be MP to ME gain. So instead of having to set both ME and MPs, I can now just set my ME. So, 38 to 45 kilos, okay? And then set my MP to ME minimum of 1, meaning that regardless of where ME ends up, my MP will always at least be the same as ME. And I'll let it go to 1.12. Let it overfeed a little protein if it needs that space. Intake, I'm going to put in at 25 to 25.2, just to bracket my inputted value. PENDF, I'll let it come down to 19. Fermentable starch, 20 to 22. Total fat, a max of 6. These are the constraints I normally work with. Lice, I'm doing it as a percent of requirement because I'm not using a supplemental lysine product. I'm just trying to make sure that my lice is at least 91% of required. Now this MET to ME number looks really high, of the value of 1.45. That's because of a product that I've got in this mix, which portrays itself as a bypass, but I'm actually using it as a rumen active source of methionine. So that just artificially drives that ratio high. So just to be, we'll put a 1.5 max on, knowing that 0.3 of that, 0.35 of that is actually artificially inflated. Actually, since we're doing it with the mix, we don't even really need to do the MET to ME. Let's just turn that off. The other new one that we have in here is branch chain VFA allowable bacteria to energy allowable bacteria. Again, instead of looking at the branch chain in relation to the energy and then trying to figure out, how am I going to optimize around this? We put this ratio in so that 1 would mean branch chain allowable bacteria is always equal to, at least equal to energy allowable. And it can go, we can let it go pretty high. We're almost always going to be bumping, trying to get that ratio to 1 to 1, at least 1, without using a supplemental source of branch chain VFAs or branch chain amino acids. And then I also have in here DCAD, calcium, mag, and selenium. And if I were to open this mix up when I optimize this full thing with the mix open, it allows the premix to change. The premix inclusion rate changes a little, but in this protein mix, got calcarb and magox as individual ingredients to meet these constraints. And the selenium I have in there as my as a constraint, knowing that all my selenium, in theory, is coming from the premix. And the way the premix is formulated, if I hit spec on selenium, my specs on other trace minerals are going to be set. Okay. So now that we have our feed constraints and nutrient constraints set, I'm going to click on the advanced optimizer here. And you'll see where it says optimizer runtime, quickest versus precise. And this is really the stopping point for the optimizer. It's what it's doing as it's optimizing. It's comparing the values that it's finding versus kind of like the ideal, and that's what this, and it gives a difference, and the difference is sigma. So we set two different levels for sigma. The quickest has a higher level. The precise is, I think, it's a much lower sigma level. I want to say it's got to get below 0.05 or 0.04, whereas the quickest has to get below 0.1. So it's really how much time you want to let the optimizer run. And then you can see we can do either maximize income over feed cost or minimize cost. And the target dry matter intake, as I said, by default, it's the average of the min and max. But you can put any number in here that you want. If you wanted to say, I want to formulate for 25 kilos, I just put in 25 there and we're good to go. So after having those set, we click on start. And it takes a second or two in the beginning to initialize it, set the whole problem up. In this case, it solved really quick because we are starting with really what's kind of an optimized diet. Now you notice, even though I told it I didn't want MP to ME to go over 1.12, it returned 1.16. But my MEs solved at 38. And here's the thing with this optimizer, folks. It will return some values sometimes that are outside of our desired min-max, okay? And this is all related to how we set up some things related to weights of different nutrients. And ME and MP allowable milk have the highest weights. So if it solves those and there's some others that are slightly out of the desired range, says, okay, that's an acceptable answer and we're going to keep it. Now, unfortunately, it did it so quick, I wasn't able to show something. So let's reset it. And I'll change to minimize cost. We'll start it again. And you can actually pause the optimizer at any time that you want to look at the results. You know, where is it now? This gets really useful when we start getting into where it's been running for 30, 45 seconds. And you can just tell it to resume. And sometimes what you'll see, as I've been playing with this, the sigma will start to drop. It'll get down pretty low, and then you'll see the sigma numbers start to increase again. Don't fret, because it just means it hit a trough in the solutions. But as it kept trying to get closer, it moved out of that trough and is looking at solutions that are better and meeting that at another, looking for others meeting that meeting those constraints. So it will start to come back down. I've let this thing run with some really difficult problems I've thrown at it, 3-4 minutes. And what I find is if it's not meeting everything within a couple minutes, if it's not returning a solution, there's a good probability I've got a constraint that's wrong. Could be I've done it, that I forgot to include a feed. Could be that my ME and MP milks, my ME allowable milks are trying to solve to an exact number because I put them both in at like 100% of required or at the same volume, or I forgot to add a selenium source and I had selenium as a constraint. So after a couple minutes, if you don't see that sigma starting to decline again, stop it, look at your results, look at your constraints, and restart it. The other thing to remember, as I said, you hit that pause button. And a lot of the times, those intermediate ones, aren't that bad. They might not be perfect, but they can definitely be workable diets. And as you saw, it flew through these pretty quick, 5 seconds, and it ran 69 iterations. So it's a big improvement of the optimizer that was in Pro. You start playing with this. If you have questions or if you want to talk about it some more, reach out to us on support, or do bookings or emails, and we can talk about this more. But welcome to the next generation of optimization in AMTS. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.